Hey guys, Andy back here from Mediocre Hobbies, coming at you with more epic content. So last week I showed you guys the beautiful new tiles that came out from Games Workshop for the new Legions Imperialis game system. And I asked you in that video, would you like to see some scenery videos? And if so, what would you like to see? A lot of you wanted to see this set of scenery here, the more intact buildings, and what can be done with those. So I thought that's what I would tackle in today's video. I would show you how versatile these buildings are, what I think about them, my thoughts and feelings. I'm gonna basically go through and construct one of each building that they do from the instructions, just to show you how easily they can go together and what kind of nice scenery you can get from that and how interchangeable some of those parts can be. And then I'm going to go off the reservation and build something a little bit different, have something in mind about what I want to build and what I want it to represent on the gaming table. So I'm just going to do that using the parts and using the skills that I've learned from constructing the buildings thus far. That's my plans for today's video, so let's see if that pans out. Before I get into the video, I say a huge thank you to all of my patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue doing what I'm doing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you're interested in getting involved in that, there are links in the description below. You get access to a private Discord server and you get an extra video every single week. 52 extra videos a year, I think is a pretty good reason, after of course supporting me and wanting me to succeed. So, okay, without further ado guys, let's get stuck into today's video. Okay guys, so this is one of the Legions Imperialis sets that was very kindly sent to me by Games Workshop. It is one of the largest ones, the Civitas Imperialis, the sector box set. And as you can see from the bottom left corner of the box set, it says it can make 16 buildings for Epic inside this one box, which is really cool. But generally, it's nothing special. It's not there's no new sprues or new scenery or anything inside of this box set. It is made up from the old Deptus Titanicus scenery. So it's both of those sets put together, the normal buildings and then the extra spires set. And they just put a bunch of sprues of each one of those inside this one giant box set for launch. I don't know whether you can actually still get this one, whether it's a general release set, but you can buy the spire separately and the building separately, so you can still construct anything you see in a video here today. So as you do get two sets of separate instructions in the box set itself, indicating the different box sets that this thing is made up of. And I thought what I would do to begin this particular video, or to go through probably a bit more than half the video, is I'm just going to build one of each of the buildings it says to build inside the instructions. So as you can see, they do, help you through and define the different kind of styles and shapes of buildings that you should build and stick those together. But then, of course, all of the bits and pieces in it are interchangeable and all the angles can work and stuff. So you can then go crazy if you want to and construct any type of building you want. So I'm going to test that theory a little bit later on. I want to construct a building. I have a building in my mind that I would like to construct. But first off, as I've never actually built one of these buildings before, I have seen them built in person, but I have never constructed them. And honestly, whenever I open up a box set with this many sprues and this many small parts, I do get a little put off. I don't generally enjoy constructing miniatures anymore. Back in the day, when I used to just have to crack open a box of Space Marines and cut out 10 legs, clean those up, glue them to bases, cut out 10 torsos, clean them up, glue them to the leg, there was very little thinking involved in it. I didn't have to constantly refer back to the instructions for, oh no, part 26 only goes to part 127, and oh, did you cut out that wrong part, and now you don't know what that's going to go to. And I find building these days to be not even just difficult. It's not difficult, it's kind of tedious and laborious. So unfortunately, that's my opinion on building these days. So with that in mind, once I opened the instructions for these things the first time and saw the intricate detail of adding all the corner details and this wall goes to that wall, I did get a little bit put off. And that's why I wanted to construct all of the examples shown in those instructions today, to basically get a grasp on how the angles work, what the different parts are, and how they can be used together or not together in some cases, just so I have a clear understanding of how to construct the building that I want to do at the end. So this was the first constructed building that I produced. It was a simple 2x2 structure, door on one side, some support struts on the other two corners. Quite simple, quite nice, quite effective. They are designed quite nice. So those squares on top, they perfectly fit one of the infantry bases for Epic on top of. So if you have, for instance, a squad of Space Marines garrisoning a building, you just put one or two of the bases up on top of the building to represent that, and then take the rest off and put them on your unit card at the side of the board, which I think is a very clever way of doing it. You'll also notice that the The roof tiles of the buildings are reversible, so you can get a bunch of different extra kind of detail and texture in those, which I think is also a really nice step. There's also a bunch which have little holes in them, which it looks like something else is going to glue on top of them at some point in the future, and I don't know what that is yet. Maybe it's like self-defense turrets or some AA batteries you can put on roofs. For the buildings that I construct later on, there's definitely a hole in this specific part, which I feel is supposed to have something else that plugs into it, but isn't included in these kits. So maybe there is more epic scenery on the way and we just don't know about it yet. I'm not too sure. So obviously going through this, I have noticed that the design of them is quite clever, as goes how to put them together. When you try and put two parts together in a straight line, it gets a little bit finicky, I'm not going to lie. You put in the extra wedge bit to make up the corners, but trying to line those parts up perfectly so that it then kind of squares off against all the other parts can be a little bit tedious and a little bit laborious. Like I'm using the liquid cement stuff from Tamiya, and that stuff dries very fast, like very fast. So I recommend perhaps for these kind of buildings going with something more like the Games Workshop glue, which has a slower drying time, so that you can kind of put glue on all the parts and then kind of, you know, wiggle it about until you get all the bits flush and straight angled, and then leave it to set properly. I think you might have a slightly easier time doing it with that, but of course that's up to you. So this is one of the buildings where the first floor has an extension, so it doesn't kind of go up a floor and a half. So how all that works and interacts with itself, it's basically just an extra wall section, and you choose where to put the roof in on top of that. But as you can see, for one simple, I think this is the 3x1 structure, there's so many different parts, and you're trying to get all the different corner sections right, and how do they stack on top of each other and stuff like that. It can seem a bit, I don't know, tedious. So I decided to do all the sub-assemblies first, so all the wall extenders I put on first, then all the corner sections, and just built it up from there, which then did give me this quite nice structure. I do like the extended bit on top. Gives me a nice tall building, hide some dreadnoughts behind perhaps. It's still not going to hide any titans or anything, but yeah. And here's the standard 3x2 I built earlier, which some of the sections come as already those extended sized. You can see that the building on the right is still a floor and a half tall, where this is a standard size building, which is 1 floor tall, and you don't do the extension bit. So very cool, interesting thing. There's also a very clever design when it comes to the bottom corners of all the buildings. There's these tiny little gaps and little slivers mixed in there, and they're actually designed so the buildings can stack on top of each other, which I think is a very cool design. It means that if you don't glue certain parts, then you can kind of chop and change and swap out your design for different things. Like if you're playing in a game which has kind of more infantry, you want a more spread out table, perhaps you have lower buildings. If you have something that's going to feel a lot of titans and a lot of mechs, a lot of big tanks, perhaps you want to have some taller buildings for cover or blocking line of sight and stuff like that, which I think is a really interesting way of doing it. It's obviously going to be a very useful thing for storage as well. If you don't have all these giant big gaudy buildings, then perhaps you just pull them all apart again and then just store them away in the box that they come in. So I believe if I do construct all of the buildings in this box set, the box set is nice sturdy cardboard like it always is, you could very easily just throw all of those buildings back inside in their constructed state and store them in there, which is probably what I'm planning on doing to keep them all together. So here's an example of the box or the building side of it. This is the instructions tell you to build one of each of the buildings, and this is what it looks like. So obviously in the box set that I get with the 16 buildings, it tells you to build all of these, I think twice, or maybe more. Like I said, I just did one example of each, which will leave me with all the extra parts that I need to construct the buildings that I want. But an example of, they even give you different examples on the front of this box set. The front of the box set obviously has some buildings in different shapes and stuff. The instructions don't tell you to construct them that way. So this is very much like a Lego set. They want you to go away and construct different things. This is one of the interesting things I was talking about with the idea of them stacking. So you take your bottom square piece, and then obviously there's a bunch of different 2x1 sets that up to a 1x1 set, which means you can go from this kind of simple, kind of, I don't know, almost utilitarian building to something a little bit more gothic, a little bit more awesome. And like I said, because of the cuts and stuff, it goes over the balconies of the older buildings. It designs it so well. It's like quite snug. It's not going to fall over or the parts fall off mid-game if you nudge the table. When they are together, it is actually quite sturdy. And after, of course, you add the extra gothic spires and stuff later on, it's going to look particularly cool. But I think this is very, very Warhammer. This looks really cool. If I could get 20 buildings to be like this scale and this grandeur and this awesome, that would make me very happy. But obviously that's going to be quite an expensive thing to do, to have that many buildings. And of course, with buildings and scenery and stuff like this for Epic costing quite a pretty penny, that's where things are going to get kind of interesting. And that's why, you know, someone may look for a way to get some stuff a little bit cheaper and make it a little bit easier for you to build up your collections. And I think that's one of the reasons that we are sponsored today by the awesome independent stockist Mediocre Hobbies. They are located here in Ireland quite centrally, and they stock a colossal assortment of Games Workshop products, and there's pretty much everything Games Workshop has they have on their shelves or can get for you. They obviously stock hundreds of other different products as well, dozens of paint ranges, all sorts of different board games, and they're definitely a premium stockist for hobby in Ireland. And of course they do their traditional up to 15-25% off Games Workshop prices in store. So if you are looking to spend a lot of money on things like Epic and get yourself really invested, you know, 15-25% is obviously a much larger saving the more you spend. So you could be saving up to €100 kind of thing with your purchases. So these guys have been a constant supporter of my channel for a number of months now, so thank you from the bottom of my heart for the continued support. If you do want to order from them, we will leave links in the description below to go and check out their website. If you spend over €60 on their website, they will do free next day delivery here in Ireland, which I think is a fantastic benefit. It is an awesome tool that I have used quite a number of times to get me out of a few sticky situations when making videos. If I run out of something, I run on tight deadlines, I know that I can order from these guys and have it in my hands the next day to continue my project or video. So yeah, they get a big thumbs up from me. Like I said, link in the description below. Okay, so we're going to go on to the second part of this box set, which is of course the Spire section of this. Now I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail like I did in the previous ones, lots of like cutting, like, you know how to put some models together. The difference between this one and the square buildings is there isn't really much in the way of kind of versatility. These buildings go together in one specific way. You building these Spire sections, there's no, oh, maybe you can put this one over here with that. No. You're building some very unique, very interesting structures. Like this one looks like a mausoleum. It's absolutely stunning. So beautiful for such a small piece. Like I said, these stack on top of each other just like the other ones. And some of these can, of course, be placed on top of the other structures to add, like, you know, like I said, the spires and stuff like that. So once again, when I did Titanicus originally, these particular sections weren't available. So it was just the square buildings, and then we literally just had this. It looked like a maze. Every board looked like a maze. So all these squares. So once they added this little flourish of detail, they added to some of the buildings in forms of the spires and domes and shingled roofs and stuff like that. I think it added quite a lot to the system. And this is what I mean by they stack. You don't have to glue these together either if you don't want to. I probably will end up gluing them into kind of more set buildings. I love the design of this. I think it's absolutely stunning. Definitely another objective piece. And I'll talk about an objective piece in a moment when I get to the construction of the building that I want to build. And obviously you can test and see which ones are interchangeable and stuff, adding the spires, different heights, different bits and pieces like that. I think they just look awesome. And I would love to have a whole section of the board be these kind of spires and mausoleum, you know, like the you know, the quarter of the heroes or something. That's where, you know, heroes from a crusade are laid to rest. And I think that kind of thing comes up in books all the time. I definitely think it evokes the imagery of 40k quite a lot. And here you can see the spires do work with the crazy big buildings, and once again push you more into that kind of crazy gothic architecture, which I think Warhammer 40,000 is renowned for. So with all of these spires built and all of these square buildings built, so far so good when it comes to the construction of them. I quite enjoy them. So now I'm going to put it to the test and build what I want to build. So I want to build a genitorium building. So this is the kind of thing that's going to power the sector. Once I saw these two particular parts, I was like, I wonder if I can use these a lot and make a building that, like I said, is going to be that objective building. Like I said, if I want to play games of Epic and I want to add a little bit more flair to games, imagine a mission is always going to be to remove the infrastructure of the enemy forces. So having these crazy buildings and destroying, you know, the energy, the power outputs plant, that could shut down the air defense, that could allow more airdrops, more drop pods to come in, and so on. So there's so many different things you could play it off at and write some custom things. So I got as many of those kind of energy walls as I could, and I started the construction of a building. And I wanted to try and push the how to build these a little bit more kind of out there. So I went for this kind of plus symbol style building to see if it would work. And all the joins did indeed work. Even all of the bits of scenery and stuff that kind of bulge out from the wall are all designed with the kind of 90-degree angles in mind so that you can indeed construct them and they will all fit together. Even when I jumped up to the second layer of building, the corners are cut off in a certain way that those perfectly cut out the balconies and stuff. All the railings fit perfectly. And when I painted this up and added all the blue glow and stuff from all the energy coils, I definitely think I'm going to have achieved my goal of making kind of an energy center. Okay guys, and there we have it, a finished set of the Legion Imperialis scenery. Obviously you get a lot more. The box set that I showed off is the sector building, and you get 16 buildings inside of that, so you get to build basically all the ones I did standard multiple times if you so choose, and then just kind of mix and match them and spread them out the board as much as you want. Or like me, if you want to cut out a bunch of random parts and see what you can construct, you get to play Lego again. I made this kind of energy genitorium style building that I think is going to be really cool for kind of mission objectives and stuff like that, so I'm really happy with that result. So the buildings are extremely modular, kind of all parts go with all parts, mix and match, different heights, different angles. It's designed very well to allow you to do that kind of stuff. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, as goes versatility and stuff like that. It's up to you guys whether you want to shill out the cash. Obviously an entire board of this stuff, including the tiles to play it on, plus a whole table of scenery. It's going to cost you in the region of kind of 500 to 600 euro, which is an awful lot of money to spend on a board, but each to their own. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like the video, ask me any questions you want. I will answer absolutely every one of you guys, and obviously hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with what's coming out. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video.